Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Yep.
Yeah, this is episode 50. I want to say it's
I
50.
think it's 50. We got 50 episodes. That's so cool.
Crazy.
Okay.
My name is Shivani.
I'm Miranda.
We are far from normal.
Yes.
This is the second part in our
Russia
series.
series. So we have our very fun guest back today. If you did not listen to our episode last time, she is from Russia. She studied, I guess I could have let Olya do this. Oh well. She studied abroad in the US a few years ago, and we wanted to talk with her about some differences between Russia and the US. Part 1 came out last Thursday, and we talked about some cultural differences. And then today we're going to talk a little bit about like politics, history, that kind of stuff, because it's all very interesting. And, we all learn about it in school. And it's interesting that Olya came to the US because the US and Russia have a lot of conflicts, as we all know. So, I'm going to start with a general question. So, Olya, when you came to the US, did you notice like a different way that history or like politics were taught to you versus Russia?
Yes, actually, the history was the most interesting subject for me personally because I think during sophomore year, I was taking sophomore history class, and we were learning about Cold War, which was obviously between Russia and the U.S. And it was interesting because in Russia, I learned this is the example I always give about the Marshall Plan. In the US, I had to do a project defending Marshall Plan, and when I came back to Russia, I had to make a project why Marshall Plan was bad for the for like Soviet Union. So I really got like two very biased and different perspectives, and I like to think that I like because I got like two parts of every story. I kind of get the like objective picture. However, I do believe that in the US, maybe because it was because of our teacher, because he was a anti-American. I don't know if I can say it, but
Yeah.
he was a he was not he was not giving us lectures about how great America was. He was trying to be objective as well, and because of that, I feel like I got the most biased history lessons in Russia, where there's like a lot of anti-American propaganda and the fact that like which is can be justified, but mostly it's like, oh, the US, they never like fought a war on their territory, and then they just came to Europe and ruined everything for everyone. So that's kind of like it's kind of like the main inference you get from Russian history classes.
Quick rewind. For listeners who don't know, do you want to describe kind of what the Marshall Plan was? Maybe even from both perspectives.
Oh no!
Do you remember? If you don't remember, that's fine. I can Google it.
No. It was okay. So it was an aid program that So after World War, obviously Europe was ruined, and there was like three parties that came out as winners. That was U.S., Soviet Union, and Great Britain. And I think, hold on, am I messing this up? No, and okay. So basically, Marshall Plan
Was that like help people who are poor?
Is that what? Can you repeat it?
Is that like how he helped people who lost the war?
Yeah, basically, it was aid. It was like an aid program to like European countries. However, there's like a whole like conditionalities. Like we give you money, but on like these terms, and this is how like I think United States tried to like spread their sphere of influence in Europe. So yeah, and obviously from the Soviet bloc, it's bad because there's a foreign country coming in and trying to like turn everyone capitalist. So
I mean, that's fair. Honestly, that like the foreign country thing, sometimes we step in where we should just not.
That's what I'm saying. um, it's definitely a trend with the U.S. and with Soviet Union and
Yeah,
Russia too.
we all
Doing
everywhere. Europe, US, all the countries. We all just step in and influence countries where we should just stop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you think that your opinions changed at all since, like, I guess you got both sides of like the story? Do you think it's changed since like you've gotten the history from Russia and then you came to the U.S. and you've seen it from a U.S. perspective? Did it change your opinion at all?
Yes, yes, of course. Because okay, I just thought of another example. Stalin. We think that was the greatest, the most powerful. People call him Uncle Joe in Russia. Uh, However, I uh, I remember like going to the class, to the history class, and everyone thought that he was like the most dictator ever, like that walked on the planet. I was like, what? That's not. I was like, I remember it just blowing my mind, learning about how when we were winning the war, the Second World War, we were like on our way and we were actually killing people because as we learn it, we're like saving everyone, we were just, peaceful soldiers. And
Peaceful
of course,
soldier. That's an oxymoron.
yeah. um, but yeah, my world was shattered, especially about like Russia and their role in history. So um, yeah, it changed dramatically.
That's so interesting. Yeah, like in the US, we're literally taught like that Stalin just like killed people and he basically had concentration camps, and
Yeah,
we're not taught anything positive about Stalin.
it's true.
Yeah, you learned that like he's even worse than Hitler, but in Russia we just like look at him holding babies, petting puppies, things like that.
What kind of
And
stuff did he like do that is like taught to you guys as being positive?
um I don't know. I think the main thing is like he helped to win the war
Okay.
because of his rule. Like we won, and he like basically saved all those European countries that were under Nazis' control when we were winning. And in general, just a lot of positive things that he did. Maybe it's because it was like middle school and they were trying to spare the details of genocide that was going on at home.
Minor detail.
But yeah, but I think I think you guys learn it in a completely different like
Yeah.
way. So that's interesting.
So now that you're like at university, do and because you're a like international studies major, like are things taught to you in less of a biased lens, or are they still pretty like pro Russia?
Oh, no, 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 no. I think because first I don't know if I mentioned that, but I do a program in English with the University of London. So and I go to one of the like the top schools in Russia. So I feel I I feel like I get the least biased picture. W- You know, as we know, like history was written by winners, but yeah, they try to be as objective as possible. Yeah, we're not really. I don't want to say that like we're not really afraid of our government and what they say, but I don't think our government intervenes into our studies, so students like me get like very objective picture of stuff that happened.
So I know like in the US, Trump wanted to like change our textbooks to make them more America biased. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, is that it that's not an issue in Russia at all?
Oh, that's absolutely an issue, especially with they changing history books, and we have this subject called social studies, and there's like a unit on patriotism.
Patriotism.
Um, yes, so I guess the main changes right now are happening with our relations with Ukraine and with Crimea. So they're trying to like rewrite it. So the annexation is justified. Uh, yeah. Funny fact. One time in my university class, I said annexation of Crimea, and my professor corrected me and said integration, not annexation. That's kind of
Sure.
interesting.
What? So again, I'm gonna ask you for a little bit of background because I don't know much about either of those annexations slash integrations. Could you give us a little bit of the back history or details or anything?
Oh yes. Okay. So we had this conflict, I think, back in 2014 with Ukraine because my president decided to integrate or annex, depends on how you like interpret it. But if I'm telling like the Russian story, that we decided to integrate a Crimean, I don't know how it's called, peninsula, uh, into the Russian Federation. However, it was previously a part of Ukraine. So they did a referendum kind of thing, and I don't know if you know how elections work in those, especially like with my government. But there is also like people of Crimea were for integration in the Russian Federation, and so the in general like general consensus of international society is that they don't recognize that Crimea is a part of Russia, which pisses my president off. And there's a lot of like separatist movements, a lot of conflicts. There are some soldiers, Russian soldiers in Ukraine, were some soldiers. Of course, no one will like admit. So there's like a whole, um, like this whole mess going on. But historically, at some point, Crimea was a part of Russia, but then it was given away as a gift to Ukraine, and recently it was integrated back.
Gotcha. So it's basically like Ukraine versus Russia for that area. So it's like a conflict between the two.
Yeah,
Okay.
and European Union defends Ukraine. Your country defends Ukraine
Of
in
course.
the part. Yeah,
It's
and it just adds, piles up with the tensions.
Have you? This is just like a personal question, but like, have you ever gotten into any like fights with anyone about like how history, how like you've learned history? Like, have you gotten into any like really heated discussions?
Yes, discussion, yes. But I don't want to say fights. Uh, Mostly because I'm not that good at history. So there has definitely been some, I hear my friends say some really mean stuff, especially about the US.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm all for bullying the United States. I was, but sometimes I just like, I want to teach them, or I guess provide another like perspective about the US, because one thing I learned in the US, you always question why, that happened, and why like you you did they do the things that they do. So I guess my experience in the US definitely made me a little more biased towards the US, because it's like a little more personal to me, and I feel like I have this urge to defend you guys. But mostly, but yeah, it's I've had some interesting discussions.
So I'm curious, what kind of things have you argued pro US when people are arguing pro Russia?
It's okay. We have a okay, this is kind of like a different answer, like an answer to a different question, but um I feel like it's kind of interesting because people in Russia, we didn't have slavery, we have serfdom, which is like um I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically like poor people versus
Right,
rich
like
people.
the hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And people in Russia do not understand the concept of N-word and will say it because they are uncultured. I mean, not cultured. I shouldn't say that. I mean, because they're uneducated about this issue. But the main like argument is like we didn't have slavery, so why would I censor myself? And so this brought up many discussions with my group mates and like classmates too, because me having this experience in the US, because I also learned that I saw the first black person in my entire life in the US.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that, and I feel like I have the need to like educate people about this issue, like like teach them about the cultural context. So that's definitely a discussion I'm having recently with Russian kids. Um, yeah, concerning the defending the US, um, let's see. I haven't defended the US in a while, so I can't really remember. um, yeah, I can think of a case. No.
Kind of going off of that, like since you've been to the US, are there like some social issues that you're more passionate about now because like I guess you've like experienced and seen it more?
Yes, definitely. Because okay, this is gonna sound bad, but I got this sense of freedom in the US because we had this walkout and like protest the gun violence. We also wore Black Lives Matter T-shirts on American Monday, and I just remember seeing fellow students protesting and like expressing their freedom of speech, which you don't really get to do that here. And that definitely, this feeling of, my I can actually like make an impact and change stuff. And that made me more passionate about issues like racism, homophobia, which is a big issue in Russia.
Mhm.
Um, things like that. I don't want to go into Marxism, but yeah, all
Oh,
of those things.
I can't. Marxism is interesting. What are your thoughts? Are you sure you don't want to go into it?
We can't absolutely. I love Marxism. I mean, I love Marx.
Tell me why you love Marxism, because like in the US, like I feel like we're taught like Marxism equals communism, and I want to hear.
which is which is absolutely not true.
Okay.
Marx never well, Marx, I feel like Marx would say that capitalism is the best thing that's ever happened to humanity so far, because it allows us for some, at least for some freedom in comparison with feudalism. But I've studied Marx in the university. And okay, so I feel like I've maybe mentioned that in Russia, we like to pretend that communism era did not happen. We just kind of like, you know, ignore that because it was an attempt, and it obviously failed. And I don't think I can call that communism, because it was definitely not communism they, Marx talked about. I personally am um, leaning towards the left wing.
Mhm.
Nothing to do with, I actually became more left when I went to the US. Maybe nothing to do with my communist heritage, but yes, I really I feel like Marxism is extremely interesting. It speaks to me.
Yeah. So to me, like the fact that Russia tries to avoid the fact that they were communists at one point, and the fact that the US only hates Russia because of communism, like why is it, I you can't really answer this. It's just like a rhetorical question. Why is there so much conflict if both of us hated the communism that you had? and we both agree on that. Like, why can't we just agree that communism didn't work back then and move forward? Oh, she's frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we just keep talking?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Right? Like,
that's a good question.
Hi.
You're back.
Did you?
Yeah, I heard that. It's definitely an interesting point. I feel like Russia and the US just fight for the sake of it at this point. They just, argue
It's
about
just
it.
power, right? We just want power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want power too. Yeah.
Love it.
What are some of the going backwards? What are some of the ideals of Marxism that you do like?
You need to like kind of define what Marxism is. But first, I definitely okay. So the idea of a society where everyone does what they want to do, and that whole thing benefits the whole society. Because in capitalism, we kind of like forced by like this like market forces
Yeah.
um, to provide for ourselves. And that's always like, not always, but often it's not what we actually like want to do. For instance, like artists, people who paint, a pic, how they called, do art.
Yeah.
They may be discouraged from pursuing their dreams because it's hard to like make a living out of it. In communism, everyone does what they like, realm of freedom. While capitalism is a realm of necessity for me. So I guess this idea of one working towards benefiting themselves, and that benefits the whole society. In fact, okay, then we like come back to earth, and then we try to think of like the practical implications and how that would look like. And I don't have a good answer for that. Because I guess that would require, because who like in their right mind would like, I don't know, want to like clean bathrooms, no one in communism will wake up. So that would like require a lot of robotization and technological advances, so robots can do that while we write music and do what we want to do. So
I was like just about to like ask you a question about like, yeah, how do you like ground that into reality? Because like I'm on the same page. I want that to happen, but like the realistic side of me is just like, if everyone got to do what they wanted to do, would we all be willing to contribute to society? Like, would we all be willing to like help each other?
And I don't think we would, because like, so like there's the whole, have you heard about the pond example where like everyone, there's like fish in the pond, and if everyone took like one fish, they would all like multiply and there'd still be enough fish.
Right.
There's always gonna be that one person who like takes two fish and then screws everyone over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also like a problem of what if somebody does not want to work, they just want to like lay on a couch and do nothing? Do I still have to like provide for them? And the problem of free riders, it's difficult.
That's a huge argument in the US about like, free health care,
right.
or like
do they deserve it? Like, should I be paying for that sort of thing? That's true. I mean, this is sort of like a there's no right or wrong answer for this either, but like, do you think that if oh my gosh, losing my train of thought. What was I gonna say? Crap. Oh no, I was gonna say, do you think that if everyone got to do I never remember what I was saying now. Sorry, I was trying to like catch it again. But like, if we didn't
just cut
have
that out
our
of the podcast.
I wish. If we didn't have like a 9-to-5 job, and if there were like no jobs that like we like had to suffer through, do you think that like our passion for doing something that outside of that would still be there? Do you think it would like diminish our passion for?
That is a good question.
I don't know if I worded that correctly.
I know what you mean. Like, I think it would.
You think so?
Like, at least I don't know, but I can't imagine a society that's not competitive. Because like the reason I get frustrated with like the things that I enjoy, like music. I get frustrated with music because I want to keep getting better.
Right.
And then I practice every single day to get better, and then it gets boring.
Right.
And I think, honestly, I think that would happen in even a non-competitive society. Like every day, if you're doing the same damn thing, even if you love what you're doing, you get bored with it.
Yeah, I mean, Olya, you said that like the society that you were brought up in is like more like a community based. Like, do you think the passion is still there? Or is it like less than when you were in like the U.S.?
You mean it, would that be like in a perfect society, or okay? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah,
I think we're thinking like
currently maybe
if
like,
it was implemented, if like we were able to do whatever we want, do you think we would still be passionate for it?
That's an interesting question, because I feel like as a human being, we need like there's a need for self-realization, type of thing. So I feel like there's always going to be a need for for doing stuff. For instance, I'm on a break. I cannot like bear like sitting and not doing anything. I've done it for like 2 weeks, and I need to do something. So I personally think that I guess the passion would still be there. And this is a really good point, because how do you know if something's good if there's nothing bad? And so, and it's an interesting point. I'll have to like think about that.
Yeah, because I do. It's like that's literally what it is. Like if we don't have to go through hard work days at work, we're never gonna appreciate the good days at work.
Right. It's like you need that sort of duality to really
Yeah.
be grateful for anything.
The yin and the yang.
It's a different thing, but
It's
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
related.
I don't know what yin and yang is. You can explain that in a different episode.
Got you. I got you. You got the duality thing. It's sort of related, but yeah, no, it's very interesting. Because like as much as we want that utopia, like would it really be beneficial for us, like realistically? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question.
I have so much more history stuff that I can talk about. I just don't know where to go and what we have time for.
We have a little time left, so you can talk.
Okay. What conflict between the U.S. and Russia do you want to talk about, Olya?
I don't know. There's just so many to choose from.
What's been on your mind recently?
I guess the Cold War, it was pretty interesting. I remember somebody told me that Soviet Union collapsed because of an arms race, or like this whole space race. I think somebody said that to me in the US, and I remembered that, and I'm kind of like, how did that happen? And recently in my history class, and it was called like history of international relations, which was basically driven by Cold War at some times. I asked, I was like, is that true? Did we fail as a nation because of some space race? And my professor got really mad, because I feel like the lecture before was about all of the like preconditions for the collapse, and I completely missed his points. But you know a lot of people miss the Soviet Union times, especially like older generation, and I personally do too, even if I never like lived in Soviet Union, because it seemed like cooler times. I feel like we were achieving much more. Especially with like space race, you can look at that. I don't know how that answers your question. I guess Cold War is a cool conflict we can talk about.
Like, is the Cold War taught to you in like a positive light? Because like you said that like communism, it is the communist like era is like ignored. But you talk about the Cold War, and that was technically during the communist era. So I'm curious. I don't know. Did I phrase that well?
No. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Um, I guess no one really teaches, about like any type of war in Russia in like a positive way. But maybe another way to like look at it is it's definitely we taught how you guys were the bad guys, and we were just trying to survive. A lot of like bad examples, or like mistakes that your presidents made during the time. We like to read, what's it called, Telegram by John Cannon, which started the Cold War. I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm like keeping like making those references, but basically this guy was American ambassador, and he wrote a very angry letter how cooperation with Soviet Union is like not achievable basically. And if you kind of look at it, it's a little like funny because all those diplomats. Oh, I have a very interesting example. This is kind of okay. Never mind. That's not about America. I just like this example so much because it just defines the era and how they all acted like children. So how in communist bloc there was China basically and Soviet Union, and there were two leaders, Khrushchev, you pronounce it in some weird way, and Mao. And Mao found out that Khrushchev could not swim, so he invited him to go swimming, and he just did laps all around him, just humiliating. It was, and that just kind of describes the whole era and the whole competition between Soviet Union and the and United States.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could totally see that with like the space race and just
Yeah.
trying
Oh,
to-
the space race, absolutely, yes.
yeah. Wow. We are pretty much out of time, but did you have anything else you wanted to
So
talk about?
much to
Like any
talk
last
about.
thing?
There's so many interesting things about like our history and our
Yeah.
politics, and
For sure.
yeah. But we can wrap up.
We can definitely do like another episode if the audience wants it, or we just want to carry on this conversation. We can totally do that. But yeah, thank you again for joining us. We have like another one after this, right? Another part. of the series?
We need to talk to Olya about that.
Okay,
and let people know.
potentially. I spoke too soon, but maybe because we love Olya. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. If you want to reach out to us, give us any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach us at farfromnormalpodcast2020@gmail.com. Our Instagram is at farfromnormalpodcast. We also have a Google survey in the Instagram, so you can leave your questions, comments, feedback also in there. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, press that subscribe button and that little notification bell. Hit that like button. Also, leave us a
Content comment.
comment, or anything. We love. We also have a Patreon, so if you guys want to support us and see more of us and get better quality content and whatnot, we are also on there. So we'd love to serve you all. And yeah,
Serve you all. Ew, I don't like that.
we love it. It's great. It's great. Anyway, thank you so much, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.